What is a flex layout? What is the difference between flex and grid layout? A flexible layout is a flexible box layout. It provides more efficient layout. There are a few basic differences between flexbox and grid. Flexbox layouts are flex boxes designed for layouts in one dimension, row or column. Grid layout, on the other hand, is designed for a two-dimensional layout. Rows and columns are at the same time. Explain CSS position property. What are some differences between absolute position and relative position? The CSS position property specifies the position of an element in the document. It is also used to place one element after another, and it is also useful for scripted animation effects. There is some difference between absolute position and relative position. The relative position places an element relative to its current position without changing the layout around it. Absolute position, on the other hand, places an element relative to its parent position and changes the layout around it. What is a box model? And what are the different elements of a box model? The CSS box model is a container that holds a number of properties including borders, margins, paddings, and the content itself. It is used to create the design and layout of the websites. The CSS box model contains various properties: borders, margins, paddings, content. The border is an area between the padding box and the margin. Its proportion area determined by the width and height of the border. Margins include the area between the border and the border's edge. The scale of the margin area is equal to the margin box width height. The padding should be spaced around the subject and the inside the outline. The height and the width of the suffering box is determined its proportion. Elements such as text, photos, or other digital media are included in the content area. What is a CSS preprocessor? What are some benefits of SAS? A CSS preprocessor is a program that allows us to generate CSS from the unique syntax of a preprocessor. SAS stands for Syntactically Awesome Style Sheets. SAS is a CSS extension that allows us to use things like variable, nested rules, inline imports, and more. It also helps us to keep things organized and allow us to create style sheets faster. What are the different types of selectors in CSS? Selectors are the part of CSS rule set. CSS selectors select HTML elements according to their ID, class, type, and attribute. There are different types of selectors in CSS. CSS element selector, CSS ID selector, CSS class selector, CSS universal selector, CSS group selector, etc.